the young man and the cave. And that's all the rabbis ask for. Tell us about the young man and the cave. But the answer can be given only by a prophet of Allah, not by a historian. If this was just an ordinary event in history, any historian could give you the answer. But this is an answer required by the rabbis, which only a prophet can give. So obviously, there has to be more than the historical record can offer. Let us then begin. All that they asked for was the young man in the cave. That's all. A wondrous story. But Allah gave them more than they asked for. He told them that the young man had a dog with them. And not only did he tell them about the dog, and they never asked about it, indicating that a dog is a very important animal in Akhir Zaman. Important for security. Important because the dog teaches so many lessons. A dog is more faithful to his master than we are to Allah. A dog is more courageous in protecting his master than we are in standing up for the truth, which is with Allah. A dog pines and pines and pines when he cannot see his master. And we forget Allah. Inna al-insana li rabbihi lakanud. We forget him and we go on our way with nary a thought about him. Look at the difference between this individual and the dog. But Allah did more than that. He's stunning the rabbis with his answer. He actually describes how the dog was sitting in the middle of the cave, at the entrance of the cave, with his legs, his forelegs stretched out in front of him. Subhanallah. Why did Allah do this? Answer, to impress upon the rabbis. They're not only getting the answer that they asked for, they're getting more than that. Providing absolute evidence that this is indeed a true prophet of the God, the one God. How did these young men get in the cave? The answer is, these were young men who remained faithful to the truth. And if you are faithful to the truth, you don't eat your biryani and go home and sleep. No. If you are faithful to the truth, you will preach the truth, you will project the truth, and you will defend the truth, and you'll advance the mission of the truth. But when you do that in Akhir Zaman, when you are faithful to the truth, then you're going to get into trouble. If you're living a comfortable life, eating your biryani every night and going to sleep, you are not being faithful to the truth in Akhir Zaman. So when you are preaching the truth, when you're living the truth, then they will come after you. And therefore, Akhir Zaman is a time when every believer will have to make hijrah. Shall I repeat that? For those who have been arguing and arguing for 20, 25 years now, say, no, Sheikh, we got to remain in the cities and do the da'wah. My answer to you, my dear young man, that you're sleeping. If you study the Quran as you ought to study the Quran, then the Quran will tell you that in Akhir Zaman, you cannot survive in the cities and the town and yet be faithful to the truth. You cannot survive except by making hijrah out of the towns and cities. And that's what they did. They stood up courageously. We don't care for our business. No, we care for Allah. We don't care if they call us terrorists. No, we have to be faithful to the truth. We don't care if they put our names on a no-fly list. No, we will not betray the truth. This is the profile of the believer in Akhirul Zaman. Do you have that profile, my son? Do you have that profile, my daughter? That I will not betray the truth, not for anything in the world. So when you have to make hijrah, it is because you are being faithful to the truth. Those who choose to remain because they are not being faithful to the truth, they can continue to live comfortably, to do the dawah, the tabligh jamaat way. So this is what Dajjal wants you to do. Dajjal wants to keep you in the city. Remember, this is the story. This is the question for which the Prophet, the Quran did not repeat the question before giving the answer, because it wants to conceal the subject of Dajjal. You have to dig for it. So Dajjal is the mastermind here in this story. And he wants to trap you. T-R-A-P. He wants to trap you. And he traps you in the cities and towns. And when it is too late, you cannot leave. And when you cannot leave, that's when they're going to give you the vaccination with the chip. And then you'll be gone. You're walking for Dajjal everywhere you go with that chip inside of you. It's too late now. I've been telling you for so long to make hijrah. When they made the hijrah, you ask, how will we survive out there in the remote countryside? But Allah says, وَإِذِ اعْتَزَلْتُمُوهُمْ وَمَا يَعْبُدُونَ إِلَّا اللَّهَ فَأْوُوا إِلَى الْكَهْفِ يَنْشُرْ لَكُمْ رَبُّكُمْ مِنْ رَحْمَتِهِ. Allah will cover you, Allah will protect you, Allah will show you His rahmah. He will spread it out for you. Why are you so worried? Why don't you put your trust in Allah? So they fled, and they stopped in the cave, perhaps to rest for a little while before moving on to the remote countryside. Because, Dajjal said to Tamim he said, when I'm released, I will enter every town and every city. But he didn't mention kampung. Oh, you don't know the meaning of kampung, eh? All right. Kampung is a Malay word. When I lived in Malaysia, I learned not only about teh tarik and roti canai, I heard about kampung. So he says, I will enter every town and every city. But he didn't mention kampung. So when they stopped at the cave, they were probably on their way to the remote countryside. And this is what our Prophet had said. He said that the time will come when a believer, I'm not talking about the schoolboys, I'm talking about the believers, the one who are faithful to the truth. When a believer, in order to protect his faith, would have to flee to the mountainside and to places where rain falls, and take with him some sheep and goats. That's the remote countryside. You can't have a dairy farm. You can't have animals in the city, can you? And so they stopped in the cave. And when they stopped in the cave, then Allah intervened to teach us something about Dajjal. It is a wonderful lesson He teaches about Dajjal when they were in the cave, but I want to save that for tomorrow. So they remained in the cave in order to rest for a while. But the dog remained at the entrance of the cave, with his legs stretched out in front of him. This is not only to protect them while they sleep in the cave, but this is Allah providing dazzling evidence that I'm not only answering your question that you ask, I'm giving you more than you asked for. And so they slept in the cave. And what happened while they slept in the cave is the story for the next session. I'll tell you what happened in the next session. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.